How did the Black Death affect Africa? You guys, since I started this channel, people have been telling me to check out videos about the Black Death, and some people may feel like I refuse to check it out. I didn't respond to the request, but that is not the case. I've already watched videos about the Black Death already. I didn't want to come and sit here and pretend like I hadn't watched it and be pretending like making reacting faces like I haven't watched it before. So if you are watching this and you're one of those people that told me to check out a video about the Black Death, and even some guy even gave me the particular video to watch, and that video I had already watched it. So there was nothing I could really do. But this one, I have not watched it before, how it affected Africa. And I actually didn't even really know it affected Africa that much. So this video should be very interesting. At least I will check a video about the Black Death finally, even if it's not the kind of video that people wanted me to check out. Let's get right into it.
Black Death ravaged medieval Europe across the mid-14th century. It's known that the disease made its way to Europe via the Black Sea and the surrounding trade routes. We all know how terrible it was in Europe, but something not often discussed is how it affected the rest of the world. So how exactly did it? How did the Black Death affect Africa and Asia? As many of you will know, the plague arrived in Europe in 1346, and at the same time it was being carried down south to the Islamic world. And here it also caused complete devastation. The first major state to bear the brunt in the region was the Mamluk Sultanate. Cairo and Alexandria saw vast mortalities, and the plague soon spread across North Africa and into the Middle East. So how did the Islamic world respond differently to Europe? In Europe, the disease was known to be highly contagious, which is why many places entered quarantines, people fled for the countryside, or states closed their borders. Outsiders were largely seen as responsible for the plague. Whereas in the Middle East, the plague wasn't seen as infectious. People refused to leave their hometowns, and in many cases they were forbidden from doing so. There was also a fundamental difference in how Muslims saw the plague. Whilst Christians saw it as divine punishment, Muslims saw it as just another part of life, and there wasn't much in the way of a mass panic. And in the end, much like the Christian world, this led to widespread death and destruction, and both recovered from the plague at roughly the same point. As for sub-Saharan Africa, well, there's no evidence to suggest that the plague ever got there, which must have been nice. So what about the world's two largest population centres, China and India? China at this point was ruled by the Yuan dynasty, which was keen on keeping records. Its bureaucrats recorded any and all natural disasters and disease outbreaks, and so if the plague were there, it would have been known, right? Well, sort of. There were numerous outbreaks of disease across the mid-14th century in China, but it's not known if any of them were the plague. The reason being that these outbreaks weren't seen as anything special. Unlike in Europe and the Middle East, there was no mention of buboes or necrotic fingers or anything of the like, which is why these outbreaks could be smallpox or flu, since those writing about it saw them as quite run-of-the-mill. And in India, which at the time was mostly dominated by the Sultanate of Delhi, there's no evidence to suggest that the plague ever reached it. Delhi was a major trading partner of both the Ilkhanate and the Mamluk Sultanate, and yet it didn't see the plague spread there. There were epidemics during the time, but like China, these weren't seen as special enough to warrant any further description, which leaves everybody completely in the dark about whether or not the plague reached the area. And there is some supporting evidence that these two regions didn't suffer the Black Death at the same time as Europe and the Middle East. And this is because in later centuries when the bubonic plague did infect the regions, it was absolutely devastating in a way that it wasn't for Europe or the Middle East contemporarily. The people who lived in Europe and the Middle East had built up immunities over the centuries, in a way that those in India or China simply never could. Again though, none of this is known for certain. No one can say with 100% surety where the Black Death...
at the end of the day, in the 1300s, 1400s, I mean, I know human beings have been able to keep history from all that time, but you know, we are always going to have issues with very old history like that, because we only get to depend on different versions of the story from different people that were existing at the time. So modern scientists and modern historians had to try and deduct all those different stories and make it into the history that we know today. So and this whole thing just makes me think of, because I can remember this Black Death was brought up a lot during the outbreak of, and a lot of people were likening it to the Black Death and all that kind of a thing. And obviously, so far, we have found out that it was not even close to what the Black Death was. And I know a lot of people, you know, in this world, we have this debate. There was this debate about and how serious it was and the severity of it. And yeah, that debate had to be had, because at some point it looked like some political game going on. Human beings are supposed to come around and discuss the solutions, discuss how we're going to handle it, instead of turning it into some political game. It was actually a shame to me. It it was disgraceful. And I'll put it on both sides. Imagine a place like the United States that prides itself in freedom. I know Europe and the rest of the other first world countries, that those countries are not free. Let's be honest. Those countries aren't really free. But the United States was supposed to be like the last free country. And I was actually shocked by the rhetoric that was going on about the mandates and all that kind of a thing. I would have never thought that a country like the United States would ever do anything that had to do with mandates, meaning you could lose your job, you could lose important things in your life just because you don't want to do a particular thing that government said you should do. Not a crime. You didn't commit any crime. Just the fact that, because most people always bring up the fact that, look, if you are saying freedom, that means someone can commit crime. No, crime is different. The fact that someone refuses to take something in their body, I thought they said my body, my choice. Is that not what they always say? Freedom, right? So, and that is part of the reason why recently in American elections, everybody, both the right and the left, are all voting for abortion, because that is the United States. Freedom to choose to do what you have to do, what you want to do with your life, as long as you don't commit a crime. That is it. So I was actually very shocked by what I saw, to be honest. I was actually very shocked. I always thought the US was like the last free country, but apparently it wasn't really. I know some people may say you were still free, but if I were to lose my means of livelihood, is that really freedom? If I lose my means of livelihood because of a decision that I made, that I didn't commit any crime, I didn't hurt anybody personally, I just don't want to put a particular thing into my body, is that supposed to be something that should make someone lose their jobs? That was really weird to me. I was actually very shocked. I was actually very disappointed with what I saw. And that is one side of the spectrum. The other side of the spectrum, you had a lot of these conspiracy theories that, frankly, were a bit asinine, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Maybe those conspiracy theories are right. Maybe. And some of them have turned out to be right, to be fair. But some of them are still sound crazy. So at the end of the day, it's just, and I guess that is what the United States is supposed to be about, kind of a divided country, if I would say. I mean, I guess that is part of the essence of the US. People being divided, people being like, oh, this is my stance. Ideological division. Not really division. I think if push comes to shove, everybody will come together. But I mean, in terms of ideologically, it seems like that is just the essence of the US. Disagreement, division, which is fine. I guess it is fine if it is it's in a professional way, it's in a cordial way as well. That is what a debate is supposed to be, not I hate you because you disagree with me. Anyway, I'm just some guy in Africa looking from the outside. Some things there really shocked me.
Again though, none of this is known for certain. No one can say with 100% surety where the Black Death didn't go, only that where it did go, it caused complete devastation.
Okay, I think I've said enough during the video already, no need to say anything anymore. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And I know some of you may not have liked what I said, but that's just how I feel about the situation. I think I was very, very fair in my statement. I didn't really castigate anybody. It's just an observation that I've had, during that period of the, I can't really say the word. I'm not sure of YouTube's policy these days about that particular topic. So you guys know why I'm not really saying it. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.